If you still have this one thing sitting in your living room, no amount of hard work will make money stay. That's not superstition. That's energetic fact. Because something in your space, right now, might be silently pushing wealth out the door. You don't see it, you don't hear it, but it's there. A silent energy leak, a financial slow bleed, and nearly every home has one. Maybe you felt it. The raise comes and disappears. The client signs and vanishes. The savings grow, then suddenly shrink for reasons you can't explain. It's not just bad luck. It's not just bills. It's your environment. You can be doing everything right on paper, but if your space is out of alignment, your energy will always feel stuck. Your money will always move like a ghost, here one day, gone the next. That's because your living room isn't just a place to sit. It's your home's energetic mouth, the place where opportunity either enters and stays or turns right back around. In this video, I'm going to reveal 5 things that might be hiding in plain sight, quietly blocking wealth, motivation, and clarity. You won't need to buy anything. Just shift a few items and you'll feel the difference. These aren't big renovations. They're small changes that can completely redirect the energy of your home and your finances. If you've ever asked yourself, why does money never seem to stick? This is your answer. And it starts with one object, possibly already sitting a few feet from where you're watching this now. Mistake 1. Broken things, broken flow. There's a reason we feel unsettled in a room where something is broken. It could be the tiniest crack in a favorite mug, a chipped candle holder, a picture frame with a missing corner. It's subtle, but our bodies register it. Our energy tenses, our mood shifts, and most of the time we don't even know why, we just feel off. Here's what most people never realize. Anything broken in your living space carries fractured energy. And when you leave it in a central place like the living room, the energetic heart of your home, it doesn't just sit there harmlessly. It actively disrupts the flow of Kai. It leaks clarity. It fractures momentum. It weakens the space that's supposed to support your abundance. The living room is where energy enters and gathers. When a broken object sits in the middle of it, even if it's small, it acts like a leak in a pipe. It doesn't flood, it doesn't explode, but over time it drains quietly, consistently, and eventually completely. You wouldn't pour clean water into a cracked glass and expect it to hold. But that's exactly what happens when you try to bring wealth and opportunity into a home filled with broken energy fields. The cracks may be small, but the message they send is loud. This space accepts damage. This energy tolerates lack. And what you tolerate, you teach your environment to repeat. Some people say it still works. Others say it still looks fine from a distance. But energy isn't about utility or surface beauty. It's about alignment. And broken things carry the vibration of disorder, stagnation, and unresolved emotion. Imagine this. You walk into a living room with a cracked vase on the mantel. No one mentions it. No one sees it as a problem. But every time your eyes pass over it, even subconsciously, you're reminded of imperfection, incompleteness, that feeling of almost right that quietly chips away at your peace. Now multiply that by every chipped dish, every cracked mirror, every piece of broken decor you've stopped noticing. That's the energy cloud you live in. That's the subtle noise blocking clarity, focus, and financial flow. Broken objects don't just symbolize decay. They normalize it. They teach your nervous system that you live in a state of partial collapse. And over time, your actions begin to reflect that belief. You stay in jobs that no longer fit. You hold on to relationships that drain you. You accept money that disappears before it can grow. All because your environment whispers, "This is what we do here. We keep what's broken." Well, there's a term for this, though we rarely say it out loud. Resignation energy. It's that low-grade acceptance of things that don't fully serve us but feel too small to fix. And that energy doesn't just stay in your objects. It spreads into your thoughts, your habits, your bank account. You might be thinking, but I've kept that mug for years. It reminds me of something special. That's valid, but ask yourself, do I love the memory or am I avoiding the loss? Holding on to something broken because it meant something once is like trying to revive a flame from ashes. The love may remain, but the energy it carries now is different. Sentimental doesn't mean sacred. And sacred doesn't mean you keep everything forever. Letting go of broken items isn't about detachment. It's about realignment. It's about deciding that the energy in your home will reflect the version of you that is whole, supported, and expanding, not the one still anchored to what cracked long ago. This isn't about minimalism or aesthetic perfection. It's about energetic hygiene. Would you wear a shirt with a giant rip to an important meeting? Probably not. So why invite money, ideas, or opportunities into a space that silently signals wear, tear, and neglect? Your environment speaks for you long before you do, and it's either saying, I'm ready to receive, or I'm still holding on to what fell apart. Take one afternoon, look around your living room, not with judgment, but with clear eyes. What's chipped? What's cracked? What's sitting on a shelf or table because it used to be beautiful? Gently pick it up. Ask yourself, is this helping the flow in my life or quietly blocking it? You'll know the answer by the way your body responds. Tension means no. Lightness means yes. Don't overthink. Trust what shifts in your chest, your breath, your gut. Then decide, will I repair this, release it, or replace it with something that truly supports where I'm headed now? You don't have to purge your home overnight, but the moment you remove even one broken thing with intention, you'll feel it. The air will move differently. Your thoughts will sharpen. That one decision will ripple. And you might find in the days after that money doesn't slip away so fast. That ideas come more freely. That conversations feel less heavy. Because when you stop reinforcing brokenness, you start making space for prosperity to stay. Not rush in and rush out, but settle in, grow roots, and finally feel welcome. Mistake 2, when the clock stops, so does the flow. You might not think twice about the clock on your wall until you realize it hasn't moved in months. It's just there, silent, stuck. And slowly it starts doing something subtle but powerful. It stops your space from moving forward. A stopped clock doesn't just freeze time, it freezes energy. And when that energy gets stuck in the heart of your home, especially in the living room where life is supposed to move and flow, it begins to affect more than just the atmosphere. It affects your money, your motivation, your momentum. Here's the truth most people overlook. Every object in your environment is either signaling motion or stagnation, growth or delay. When a clock stops, its message is clear. Nothing is progressing here. And even if your conscious mind ignores it, your subconscious mind never does. Every time you walk past that clock, a part of you receives the cue. We're not going anywhere. You might feel slightly unmotivated, a little off, or like things in your life just aren't moving the way they should. The promotion takes longer than expected. The project keeps getting delayed. Money trickles in but doesn't flow. You may not connect those dots, but your space already has. Because energy is always responding to symbols. And a broken clock, especially in a high-energy area like the living room, is one of the most potent symbols of energetic standstill. Even worse, we often keep them out of habit or sentimentality. It's a nice piece. I'll get it fixed someday. But until you do, your home is holding on to a time that has already passed. It's like trying to attract a fresh start while staring at a still frame. You're saying you want movement, yet anchoring your energy to something that's literally frozen. This kind of conflict might sound small, but it creates real drag in your life. It's why opportunities might circle but never land. Why ideas feel promising at first but stall out halfway. Why your income rises but never stays steady. The living room by nature is your home's pulse. It's where people gather, where laughter happens, where energy is exchanged from the front door to the furthest corner. So what happens when one of the dominant items in that room says, "We've stopped"? That becomes the rhythm your space aligns with. And rhythm matters more than aesthetics. A beautiful room filled with stuck energy will never feel alive. But a simple space, vibrating with movement and clarity, can spark 1,000 new beginnings. If you're keeping a broken clock because it still looks good, pause and ask yourself, is that image worth the energy it's draining? Because while it may look fine, it's communicating something deeper, something that may be echoing through your finances, your creativity, even your relationships. Stop time suggests delayed connection, interrupted flow, and emotional distance. That's why people living in homes with multiple stopped clocks often report feeling behind in life or disconnected from their own direction. It's not a coincidence, it's a pattern. And the good news, it's incredibly easy to shift. All you have to do is bring time back into motion. That might mean changing a battery, replacing the clock, or simply removing it entirely until you're ready to restore its function. What matters is the choice, the signal you send to your space and to yourself. You're saying, we're no longer stuck here, we're moving forward now. And the energy responds immediately. The air feels different. The atmosphere lightens. You may even find yourself breathing deeper, thinking more clearly, or feeling a surge of motivation where there was once resistance. That's not magic. That's what happens when alignment is restored, when your space begins to support your momentum instead of subtly stalling it. Think of it this way. Would you use a broken compass to navigate your life? Of course not. So why let a frozen clock dictate the flow of your home? Everything in your environment is either helping or hindering your journey. You don't need to overhaul the whole room. Just bring time back into flow. Choose a clock that works. Let its rhythm match the pace you want for your life. Steady, calm, forward-moving. You'll be amazed at what happens when the energy catches up. Conversations start flowing. Money begins to arrive with less effort. Ideas that felt distant become reachable, because now your home no longer says, "We're standing still." It says, "We're ready." Ready to receive, ready to grow, ready to move forward. And just like that, life begins to meet you there. Mistake 3, the art we hang is the mood we live in. We rarely question the images we see every day. A painting of a misty forest, a photo of an empty road, a canvas with muted colors and soft shadows. Maybe we chose it because it looked calming, or because it matched the couch. But we forget that every piece of art on our walls is doing something far beyond decoration. It's speaking, silently, constantly, and directly to our subconscious mind. The truth is, your walls are whispering all day long. The only question is, what are they saying to you? Art sets the emotional tone of a room. And in spaces like the living room, where energy gathers, where people connect, where abundance is meant to enter, those emotional cues become especially powerful. If your walls are filled with images of stillness, loneliness, or isolation, that energy doesn't stay trapped in the frame. It begins to fill the room, and eventually it begins to fill you. Let's be clear, this isn't about personal taste or judging what's good or bad art. It's about emotional frequency, and just like music, imagery vibrates. A painting of a single boat lost at sea might be visually stunning, but it also communicates solitude, uncertainty, and a sense of drifting. Over time, your body feels that story. So does your motivation, so does your money. You might find yourself thinking, why do I always feel a little heavy in here? Why does this space feel so quiet, even when I'm not alone? Often, it's because the visual energy of the room is pulling you into stillness, but not the nourishing kind. The stagnant kind. And that stagnation can spill into your work, your relationships, and your ability to attract and hold onto abundance. Think of it this way. Your living room is the energetic welcome mat of your home. If it's filled with cold tones, bleak landscapes, or imagery of emptiness, it tells opportunity. There's no warmth here. There's no invitation to stay. That's not just metaphor, that's energetic communication. Especially with images of fast-moving water, rivers rushing out of the frame, waterfalls pouring downward, or boats sailing away. In energy symbolism, water represents wealth. When that water flows out of the space or rushes without direction, it can signal prosperity entering your life, but not sticking around. It rushes in, then just as quickly it leaves. And maybe you felt that pattern. Money comes in but disappears. You make progress, but it slips away. Sometimes it's not your habits, it's your environment reinforcing loss. Now here's where the shift happens. When you replace those visuals with something vibrant, grounded, and emotionally uplifting, your space starts to support you instead of draining you. Think of imagery with sunlight, blooming flowers, mountains in the background, calm lakes, or paths leading inward. These aren't just pretty, they speak the language of safety, growth, and stability. They tell your subconscious, there is space to land here, you are supported here, life moves forward here. Even if you love art with deeper, moodier tones, balance it. Hang one piece that lifts your energy every time you look at it. Something that makes you breathe deeper, smile without thinking, feel a little more connected to hope. That shift doesn't have to cost a lot. It can be a print, a photograph you took, a framed quote that feels like a warm hand on your back. What matters is how it feels. If you walk into your living room and feel your heart sink or your shoulders tighten, that's information. That's your nervous system responding to the silent messages your walls are sending. Don't ignore that signal. Don't normalize emotional heaviness. Change the story. You get to decide what kind of emotional climate you live in, and your walls are the fastest way to reset that climate. Start with one piece. Ask yourself, does this image support the future I'm building? Does it carry the energy I want more of in my life? If the answer is no, let it go. Or move it to a space where stillness belongs, like a study, a hallway, or storage. But let your living room, the gateway of your energy, speak abundance fluently. Let it say you're safe here, you're rising here, you're welcome here. Because when your home starts to say that, your energy will believe it. And when your energy believes it, everything starts to align. Your thinking, your decisions, your wealth. You'll stop feeling like you're swimming upstream. You'll stop wondering why the good things never stay. You'll begin to see the art wasn't just on your wall, it was in your life. And now it's finally telling the story you actually want to live. Mistake 4, the just leave it there pile is blocking your luck. It starts innocently. A stack of unopened mail. A candle that burned out weeks ago. A coffee mug that somehow never made it back to the kitchen. I'll take care of that later, you tell yourself, but later keeps moving, and the pile keeps growing. What began as a temporary resting spot quietly becomes a permanent block, not just to your space, but to your energy. And over time, your flow, mental, emotional, financial, starts to feel just as cluttered. We tend to think of clutter as visual noise, but it's more than that. It's energetic congestion. Every object you just leave there is part of a silent conversation between your space and your subconscious. And the message is this: unfinished, overwhelmed, postponed. When you walk past that clutter corner every day, whether it's behind the couch, next to the stairs, or at the end of your dining table, your nervous system registers a small dose of stress. Not enough to stop you, but just enough to slow you down. Your mind takes note. That's another thing I haven't dealt with. And that quiet guilt starts stacking too. Layer by layer, it builds a subtle but powerful resistance to clarity, focus, and forward motion. Clutter isn't just about mess. It's about what the mess represents: delay, indecision, avoidance. And in the realm of energy, those patterns directly affect your ability to hold onto abundance. Think about it. Would you pour fresh water into a sink full of dirty dishes? Probably not. So why expect new ideas, new income, or new momentum to enter a space already filled with yesterday's weight? The most dangerous part of clutter is that we stop seeing it. We step over that bag, ignore that dusty shelf, overlook that box that's been there since the holidays. It becomes invisible, but it still pulls energy. It's still using mental space you could be devoting to growth. And the longer it stays, the louder the message becomes. There's no room for more. That message doesn't just live in your living room. It follows you into your day, into your decisions, into your finances. You might feel like you're constantly doing, but not getting ahead. Like you're trying to focus, but something's always nagging at the edge of your awareness. That's the weight of unprocessed energy. And most of it starts with the piles we've stopped acknowledging. The just leave it there spots may seem harmless, but they become energy traps, places where motion gets stuck, where newness gets delayed, where opportunity quite literally has nowhere to land. So how do you shift it? You don't need to overhaul the whole room. Start with 1 square foot, 1 corner, 1 pile. Ask yourself, what's actually here? What am I holding onto that's either expired, irrelevant, or no longer aligned? Be honest, but not harsh. You're not a bad person for letting things build up. You're human. Life gets busy. But now you get to reclaim that space. Not just physically, but energetically. As you clear that 1 pile, notice what else starts clearing. Your breath deepens, your mind quiets. You feel a tiny spark of motivation. That's energy returning to you. That's clarity replacing static. The action is simple, but the impact is profound. Because in Feng Shui and other energy practices, the way energy enters your home is how it enters your life. And if that entry is blocked by clutter, by chaos, by delay, then every part of your life feels more effortful. The living room, in particular, is where energy is meant to gather, circulate, and expand. When it's weighed down by objects that no longer serve a purpose, that natural expansion gets interrupted. Money, like energy, needs space. It needs somewhere to land, rest, and multiply. When that space is filled with indecision and neglect, wealth passes you by, not because you're unlucky, but because your space doesn't feel ready, ready to receive, ready to support, ready to grow. So take 1 moment today. Stand in your living room and ask, what here feels heavy? What here feels like it's waiting for me to finish something? Then begin, not with judgment, with clarity, with intention, with care. You don't have to clear everything in one go, but even 5 minutes of decluttering sends a signal to your energy field. I'm making room for peace, for ideas, for wealth. Because the truth is, your outer space always reflects your inner state. And when you bring order to your environment, your life starts to follow, step by step, breath by breath, pile by pile. Until one day you look around and realize, your space is no longer a holding zone. It's a launching pad. And the energy that once felt stuck is finally flowing freely, fully, and in your favor. Mistake 5, dead plants can't call in prosperity. A wilted plant sitting in the corner of your living room might seem like no big deal, just a little forgetfulness. Life got busy, watering slipped your mind. Maybe you meant to revive it, maybe you just got used to it being there. But that dry soil, those yellowing leaves, they're saying more than you think. In energy terms, a dead or dying plant is a powerful symbol, and not in a good way. Because plants aren't just decoration. They're living energy tools. When they thrive, they infuse a room with vitality, movement, and quiet joy. When they wither, they shift the frequency of that room towards stagnation and loss. You might not consciously feel it, but your nervous system does. That limp stem, that leaf barely holding on, it quietly reinforces a message. Nothing is growing here. And when your subconscious hears that message over and over, it starts to believe it. That belief spreads, first into your mood, then into your actions, then into the results you see or don't see in your finances, your motivation, and your confidence. You start feeling a little stuck, a little tired, like no matter what you do, nothing's really taking off. Sound familiar? If you've ever wondered why abundance feels just out of reach, look around your space. Are the things meant to represent life still alive? A dead plant is more than a missed watering. It's a signal, a signpost of neglected energy. In Feng Shui and many energy practices, healthy plants are placed intentionally to invite good luck, fresh kai, and opportunity. But when those plants die, or worse, are replaced with artificial ones, the signal shifts completely. Now, instead of saying, "Growth lives here," the space whispers, "We gave up." A fake plant might look lush, but it doesn't breathe. It doesn't interact with light or clean the air. It's static, unchanging, imitating life without ever embodying it. And that energy matters, because your environment is always reinforcing something. When you surround yourself with living energy, plants that stretch toward the sun, that shift with the seasons, that ask for your attention, you stay in relationship with vitality. You stay connected to growth. But when you leave lifeless objects in that space, your environment no longer supports momentum. It subtly encourages stagnation. And in areas like the living room, where energy should be active, bright, and welcoming, dead or artificial plants quietly lower the vibration of the whole space. That low frequency doesn't just stay in the corner, it spreads. You might feel it as fatigue that doesn't go away, as a general blah you can't explain, as plans that seem exciting at first but fade out before you follow through. Dead energy invites more of the same, and that includes finances. Money, like nature, wants movement. It wants aliveness. It wants to grow. So when you fill your space with symbols of paused or artificial life, you're creating a mismatch. You're telling prosperity, this space isn't ready to sustain growth. Fortunately, the solution is simple. It starts with honesty. Walk through your living room and look at every plant. Ask, is it thriving? Is it truly alive? Or have I been keeping something that no longer reflects life? If it's brown, brittle, or not bouncing back, it's time to let it go. Thank it for what it brought, then release it. And if you filled your shelves with fake greenery, thinking it would do the job, consider replacing even just one with something real. You don't need a jungle. One small, healthy plant is enough to change the frequency of the room. A single green sprout in a ceramic pot, a tiny succulent on the windowsill, a pothos plant cascading gently from a corner shelf. These are not just plants, they're living invitations. They say, life moves here, energy grows here. Abundance has room to root here. And your space will feel the difference immediately. So will your nervous system. So will your clarity, your energy, and your financial flow. Because healing your home isn't about perfection, it's about presence. And nothing brings more presence into a room than a living being you choose to care for. not because it looks right, but because it feels right, because it reflects what you want more of: vitality, aliveness, growth. So if money feels stuck, if your plans feel stale, if you've been craving something to shift but can't quite put your finger on what's missing, look to your plants. Look to what's alive. Look to what's quietly asking for release. Because when you remove what's no longer growing and you welcome in even the smallest sign of new life, the energy begins to move again. Not just in your home, but in your life. And prosperity, which has been waiting on the outside, finally sees a place where it's invited to stay. By now you might be looking around your living room with different eyes, not with criticism, but with clarity, with a deeper understanding that the space you live in is never neutral. It's always speaking, always echoing your beliefs, your energy, your readiness for change. And what's been silently sitting in your home, those broken items, stopped clocks, sad images, clutter piles, and lifeless plants, may have been doing more than taking up physical space. They've been shaping the atmosphere you live inside. The truth is, our environment trains us, not through loud messages, but through repetition. Through the quiet, daily cues that tell your nervous system what's safe, what's normal, and what's possible. When your space reinforces stuckness, your thoughts start to slow. When your home reflects delay, your plans begin to stall. And when the energy around you mirrors lack, it becomes harder to reach for abundance, even when it's right there. But this isn't about blame, it's about awareness. Because once you see the conversation your home has been having with you, you can start to shift it. And it doesn't take a renovation, it just takes intention. One choice at a time. One object at a time. One cleared corner, one replaced item, one gentle invitation back into movement. The science behind this is simple. Your brain responds to your surroundings constantly. Visual clutter taxes your mental bandwidth. Stagnant symbols, like dead plants or broken clocks, trigger stress responses that keep your body in a low-grade state of alert. And environments that lack warmth or flow subtly increase cortisol, which over time affects decision-making, optimism, and even your sense of self-worth. But when you create a space that breathes, one that feels alive, aligned, and open, you restore your natural rhythm. You calm the noise, you raise the frequency of your thoughts, your choices, and your outcomes, and what once felt hard begins to feel possible. So don't rush to fix everything at once. Just begin with awareness, with kindness, with trust that as you clear, life responds. Because your home isn't just where you live, it's where your future is invited to land. And when that space finally says, "I'm ready," abundance will know exactly where to go.